Are we good?
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Earth Day presentation. Happy Earth Day. We are so excited that you're all here with us today. My name is Janelle, and I'm going to be with you for the next 45 minutes to an hour. I am here from Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and I'm going to be joined by some friends today. So, my friend Raya is out in the park, and we're going to hear from her a little later.
Hello,
Hi, Raya.
everybody. Nice to meet you.
And I also have a lot of people on the back end. So if you have any questions or any comments, my friends Linda and Alex are going to be on the back end in the chat on YouTube. So you can ask any questions, answer any questions I give you as well. And the same goes for teachers. If you have questions in your classroom, feel free to just type them in the chat. Another point for teachers is there is a worksheet that goes along with all that we're going to be learning about today. So if you want that worksheet, there is a link that's going to be in the chat that you can access that worksheet. And if you signed up earlier and there was no worksheet there available, it is there now. And there are two different worksheets, one for grades 1 to 3, and then one's for grade 4 to 8. So please feel free to access those and use them how you see fit with your students. So we are going to get into today. I hope you all are enjoying this day because Earth Day is pretty special. It's a whole day that we get to celebrate all that Earth has to offer us and all that we are thankful for. And in particular, I wanted to just start off today being thankful for and recognizing the land that I'm on today. So I am out in front of my house here in Pickering, and you are all at your schools or at home all over the place. But the land that we're on is really special. It gives life to so many things. And there has been caretakers and stewards of these lands for ever since people have been here. And those are our Indigenous communities. So these lands are Indigenous lands. And we are super thankful to be able to be here and learn here and explore here and eat here and all the different things that we do here. So thank you to the Indigenous communities. My part of the woods are Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, and the current caretakers, the Mississaugas of the Credit. And also thank you to all of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people that continue to live on these lands and take care of these lands and teach us about how to be good stewards of these lands that we're on. So that word, stewards or stewardship, or even conservation from our where I work. So all those things mean to save, to help, to protect, and we're saving and helping and protecting things out in nature. And that's sort of what we think about when we are thinking about Earth Day. The Earth is an amazing place that we are so lucky to be on. There's so many cool things about it. What do you like about our Earth, about our planet? What's something cool that you like about it? While you're thinking about that, feel free to put it in the chat, answer in your classrooms if you are there. I want to tell you a little bit about what I think is really cool about the Earth. So our Earth is the only planet in our solar system that has liquid water. Can you imagine if we didn't have liquid water? Well, we wouldn't be able to live here. So liquid water allows life to be here. We need water in order to drink. Our Earth has this really cool blanket of air and dust around us called the atmosphere. And that atmosphere protects us from the sun and all the harmful rays from the sun, but it also keeps our planet the perfect temperature so that life can live here. Our Earth has so many different types of plants and animals that, I mean, are pretty cool to just learn about and discover, but also they are an essential part to our ecosystems and how things function on the planet. So there's so many things that I think are really cool about the Earth. Did anything come in the chat about what you think is really interesting about our planet?
So I see one comment from someone who's saying, "Go Earth." So I think that there's a lot of joy and celebration of the Earth that's happening today, which is awesome.
I I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Something is happening with my audio, but I'm sure it was really great. Um, so thank you all for participating in that question, thinking about what we like about the planet. Now we can think about all the things that are really interesting about the planet and really cool about the planet. But especially on Earth Day, when I'm thinking about how we can help our planet, I also know that us as humans, we do a lot of harm to our planet. We do a lot of things that are not so nice. We cut down trees, we litter. There's tons of plastics in our environment, which are bad for our waters and our wildlife. Climate change, so how our weather and how our climate is changing and our planet is getting warmer, and those are all things that humans have done in one way or another to the planet. And when I think about that, I get a little bit sad. There's so many things that we could do better for the planet. How does that make you feel when we think about all the pollution or climate change or littering or deforestation? Those are big things. And if you feel sad about it or mad about it or disappointed or scared, those are all legit feelings that we have. And actually, there is a term for that when we're thinking about all those big feelings that we have when we think about all the things that are happening in our environment. That is called eco anxiety. And I wanted to bring it up today because our friends over at Earth Day Canada, that is their campaign this year. They are talking about eco anxiety and how we as humans, we feel a lot of things about what we're doing to the planet. And sometimes we don't know what to do. We're just really anxious about it and we don't know what to do. So let's start off today by just taking a deep breath. Let's enjoy the nature around us. Look up at the sky, up at the trees around. Everyone take a deep breath in and let it out. So I laid a lot of big things on you. But the good news is, even if there's all this stuff happening, we can do something about it. And that's what Earth Day is about. And we should do it every day of the year, but Earth Day in particular is about doing actions for our planet. And when we do things for our planet, even if it's small, even if it's a little itty bitty thing, it can add up and it can grow into something bigger. And we can have a really big positive impact on our planet. We can help the Earth. So today we are going to be learning about some of those small things that we can do to help the Earth and relieve our anxiety and make the planet a better place. And we're going to be looking at how we move around. We're going to be looking at how we eat. We're going to be looking at how we play or connect out in nature. And then I'm going to show you one thing that I really like to do to help the planet, especially on Earth Day. It's just a really fun way to connect with the Earth. So I hope you'll stick around for the next 40 minutes-ish as we explore these things. So the first thing I wanted to say, as I am out here in my yard and moving my body and talking to you, I want to recognize that there's a lot of different ways that we get around. And you can even see the road behind me, it's pretty busy. There are lots of cars going back and forth all day on this road. One thing, what are some ways that you get around? Do you get around, or that we can get around as people in general? Can we get around in planes and boats and scooters or bikes or motorcycles or submarines or hot air balloons? There's so many different ways that we get around, and each way is important in its own way. It helps us enjoy life, or maybe we can visit people that we haven't seen in a while, or maybe we can just go to the grocery store. But one way that we get around that we're going to be talking about today is called active transportation. And active transportation is just how we get around by using our body and being active. So when we think about active transportation, we're thinking about walking, we're thinking about biking, we're thinking about scootering or rollerblading, all those different things that use our body energy to propel us forward from one place to another. Now, why would we want to do all that? I have a car sitting in my driveway. Why would I want to use active transportation? Well, our cars, a lot of our vehicles, in fact, use something called gasoline. And gasoline is a fossil fuel. And when you burn it, a lot of pollution goes into our air and it creates pollution that is affects our air quality, but also it releases something called a greenhouse gas. Has anyone ever heard of that before? Let's think. The word greenhouse. If I'm thinking about a greenhouse, I'm thinking like a glass building, and there's plants inside. But that glass building keeps the plants nice and warm. And the same thing happens around our Earth in the atmosphere. Remember, I mentioned the atmosphere is around our Earth, that layer of air and dust that's around our Earth that keeps us safe. Well, in that atmosphere, it's made up of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor. All those things are greenhouse gases. And they're good so that we can live on the planet, but they're good in balance. The earth knows how to balance things and the proper level that those should be in. However, when we're driving around a lot in cars or planes and things that burn and produce those greenhouse gases that go into our air, into our atmosphere, there are too many greenhouse gases, too much carbon dioxide, and that can affect how warm our planet gets. And so we know that term as our planet gets warmer is called global warming or climate change, we talk about a lot. And climate change has a big effect on a lot of different things on our planet, our water, our food systems, our soil, and our communities, our houses, where we live. So it's really important to think about the effect of our greenhouse gases in our atmosphere and how much we're producing. So if we can produce less by walking around or using our bodies to get around, then we'll be better for it. Our air will be cleaner, our waters will be cleaner, and we'll be able to live on the planet a lot easier. So, in order to show you some acts of transportation, I have my scooter here, and I'm just gonna scooter on over to my next station where I'm going to talk about our next little thing. But while I do that, there is a question I would like to ask you. So throughout this presentation, there are going to be some quizzes, and our first quiz question is coming up right now. So our first question for you is a true or false. And for this, I want you to either type in the chat true or false, or if you're in school and you want to move your body, you can stand up if you think this is a true statement, or stay seated if you think this is a false statement. And the statement is, there is more water in the atmosphere or the sky than in all the rivers in the world. Is that true or false? While you're thinking about that, I'm going to just scooter on over to my garden over here. So what do we think? Well, there are some questions coming in the chat, and I'm going to give you the answer now. I mean, there's lots of water in rivers, right? That seems like maybe it could be false. Maybe it's true. All right, the answer is true. There is 6 times more water in the atmosphere in the form of water vapor, so that's gas water, than there is in all of the rivers. And that number keeps on rising as our planet gets warmer and more water evaporates. So thank you all for participating in that question. I am here in my garden to explore what we are going to be talking about next, and that is how we eat. So, how we eat is actually really important to our planet. So, just like how our planet, just like how the how we get healthy from eating food that is healthy for our bodies, the planet gets healthy by growing foods that are healthy for the planet as well. So there are lots of different ways that we get our food. Where do you get your food from? That's my first question for you. Where do you get your food from? I get my food, and I'm sure a lot of you say this as well, from the grocery store, right? You go to the grocery store, you go inside, you pick up some bread, some fruit, maybe some meat, you pay for it, and then you walk on out the grocery store. Nice, easy way to get our food, right? But that food comes from somewhere. Somewhere along the way, someone grew that food on land, or raised raised the animals that gave you meat. It came from somewhere, and we don't often think about that. But how our food is made and produced has a really big impact on our planet. So, for example, if you may like drive by a big cornfield or a soy field if you go out to just not even too far out of our cities, and those agricultural fields, we call that agriculture or farming, those farms could use pesticides, so those are chemicals that get rid of bugs, or herbicides, which are chemicals that get rid of other plants like weeds, or they can just use lots of fertilizers, which is a chemical that helps our plants grow better so that they can produce more food, which we need to support our populations. But as all of those chemicals get sprayed on these fields, it doesn't stay there, right? If there's a big rain, what do you think would happen to those chemicals? Or maybe even when they're spraying it, if it's really windy, what do you think would happen to those chemicals? So those chemicals move really easily throughout our ecosystems. It doesn't just stay on a farm. A farm is not like an island. So for example, if it rains, that rain will wash away some of those chemicals into our streams, into the soil, and that can really have a negative impact on our water quality, which we need in order to drink and clean ourselves and cook and all these different things. And it can have a really big effect on the animals living there. So maybe animals can't live in water close to farms because there's just too much pollution in there, right? So that's something to think about when we're thinking about how we get our food. Another thing is meat, right? I eat meat. I enjoy meat. I think burgers are delicious, but beef, for example, has a really big impact on our ecosystems and on our planet. So beef comes from cows, and cows produce a lot of methane. And remember I said methane was one of those greenhouse gases which go into our air and create climate change? So when we're thinking about how we can change how we eat to better the planet, what are some things you can think of? Because this is doom and gloom, but there's things we can do, remember? There's things we can do to help our planet. So one thing that I can think of is maybe you can eat foods that use less chemicals, maybe organic foods or even local foods. A lot of local farms will have more sustainable farming practices. But let's be real, sometimes those foods are really inaccessible. You can't get them easily at the stores, or maybe they're really expensive. So, what else can we do? Well, I'm going to show you. So, I am here at my garden. I mean, nothing much is happening right now, but this is an example of what we can do. We can grow our own food. So, in the summer, this garden is full of tomatoes and peppers and chives and onions and so many different things that I use to supplement some of the food that I get from the grocery store. So I don't stop going to the grocery store. I just go there less because I have some of the food that I grew to eat. Now, um, it's pretty easy to do this. It looks like it could be really hard, but it's not too hard. You can find seeds from friends, from families. You can go to a seed library close by, so you can Google where those are. And you put it in some soil and give it some water and some love, and hopefully you get some seeds growing. And I have some seeds growing, some seedlings that I started inside. And we're going to do a little bit of a quiz to see if you can recognize any of the plants that I have growing here in my garden. So I'm going to start with this one over here. This one's a nice, easy one, maybe. If I were to pick this, it smells like onions, maybe, or garlic. It tastes really good. I can put it in salads or maybe like potato salad or on my top of my potatoes. Has anyone ever had these before? These are chives. So I have some chives growing, and chives are cool because they come back every year. So I don't have to keep planting these. They just come up by themselves. Over here are plants that don't come back every year. I have grown some of these. Does anyone recognize what this is? These will have bright red fruit attached to them. They have maybe lots of seeds in the middle that are slimy and goopy. These are tomatoes. So I have two different types of tomatoes here. I have some herbs in the middle. I think it's some parsley or maybe cilantro. And then I have some peppers over here that will grow up as well in the summer. So it's not too hard to plant your own food. In fact, I'm going to show you how to plant food with these onions that I got. So these are little seed onions, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to plant some food by planting some onions here. So I'm going to plant them in my container. Uh, you don't have to have a garden like I do in order to plant seeds. I'm super lucky because I have this yard, and I recognize not everyone has yards like these. You may have, you may not have the space, so there are different ways that you can grow food. One of those ways is by going to a community garden. So I think there's a picture of a community garden that can be shown, and there are community gardens that are found all over the place, all over. Maybe there's one in your city, maybe there's one at a faith place like a church or a mosque. Maybe there are ones at your school, and these community gardens offer spaces for people to go and grow food. You may also not have one close by, but you have a balcony, for example, and you can grow food on your balcony in pots. Lots of food can grow in your pot. And if you don't have any of those spaces close by, you can also grow food inside your home. So lots of food can grow inside of your home, in pots, in front of a window, and that's a good way to supplement some of the food that you're getting from the grocery store. So, to recap, we can grow our own food, and that way we make sure that we are not putting pesticides or herbicides or fertilizers, inorganic fertilizers, into our environment and hurting our environment. So we know that it's good for our planet, and that food is also good for our bodies. So we have moved around. We learned that moving our bodies is good for the planet. We learned that growing food and being really close to the planet actually by helping move soil and plant seeds and watching them grow and then eating our fruit of our labor is another way that we can help the planet by making sure that we're really thinking about what goes into our soils and our earth, but also into our bodies as well. Now, I'm going to pass it off to Raya. Oh, actually, I have a question first before we leave. Um, we're talking about food, and food actually gets one of the ways that we need. One of the ways that food gets pollinated and grows more is by bees. Bees are really important for our food system, and when we see like those big, huge fields of corn or soy, that's not a really good place for bees to be. They don't really like it, and then our populations of bees go down. So thinking about those big farming fields also decreases our biodiversity, how many different types of things we can find around. So our true or false question for this one talks more about bees. So true or false, there are more types of honeybees than there are native bees in the world. So honeybees give us honey. They're delicious. They live in hives, and our native bees may live in the ground or by themselves or up in trees or in little sticks. What do we think? True or false? There are more types of honeybees in the world than native bees. Hmm. All right. Let's get your answers. What do you think this is? False. There are 20,000 different types of bees in the world, and only 8 of them are honeybees. Isn't that crazy? When we think of bees, we think of honeybees usually, but there are so many different kinds of bees. In Canada alone, there are over 800 species. And by having small gardens, small local spaces to grow food, we are supporting those populations of bees. All right, thank you for participating. We are going to move on to our next section. So we learned how we move can be good for our earth, how we eat can be good for our earth. How about how we connect with others or connect with nature? I'm going to pass it off to my friend Raya, who's going to give us more information about that.
Hello, my friends. I'm so glad to see you again. I want to start off by giving a shout out. We have some very speedy folks in the chat. So Madiha and Miss Alexander's class, amazing job with answering the questions. And yes, that last question, you got false correct. Well done. Now my name is Raya, as Janelle mentioned, and I'm in a local park to where I live. I'm in Toronto, kind of in the east end of Toronto. And this actually is not even technically a park. It's more of a parkette. And there's a path that goes right through this park. while I've been here for the last half hour, I've seen a lot of people using active transportation to get around. So I'm seeing a lot of people on scooters or walking out in this area, which is just so great to see. Now, you can see there are also a lot of trees in this park, which is amazing. So Ms. Corvezzi's class, you mentioned earlier that you like trees, and I imagine that you might like exploring this space. I see at least maybe 5 different species of tree right here. And I feel really connected to trees as well. When you think about how we spend time in natural spaces, well, in a city, you might think, Raya, there aren't really that many natural spaces around, but you just have to kind of find them. So even in your front yard or backyard or balcony, or if you're in an apartment building, maybe there's a little strip of green space between your building and the sidewalk, there is green. And I say green in a broad sense because it could also be brown or other colors too, right? But there is nature there. And you can get really close and see it change through the seasons to kind of bring that connection, make that connection grow to the natural surroundings of your local spaces. So we actually ran a live stream last month. Some of you might have been there, where Jasmine had taken us to a park near her. And we, meaning myself and then our colleague Linda, our friend Linda, we created some art. And if you join that live stream, you probably created art as well to kind of highlight the connections that you feel with nature. We'd like to share some of the art that was sent in to us. And so I'm going to ask for Jasmine to pull up the picture of the first one. So this was sent by Annie, who goes to Hillcrest Public School. And in this picture of Annie's connection to nature, I'm really seeing that there is a lot of beautiful green and water and trees represented. And then there's also that acknowledgement that, well, there's a lot of parts of nature that have sort of been taken over by some human activities. And it really looks like there is a recognition of that, but also, you know, a way that we can move towards the future where things are a lot more green. So that's a wonderful way to connect to the natural world. We've also got a contribution from Wally from Hillcrest Public School as well. And here we can see that Wally really took a big step back and showed the blue and green of the earth in what looks to me like the universe, so in space. So we've got that like dark space all around, and we are this blue-green beacon, planet Earth. So really a very wide connection to the entire planet. And then we had a contribution from Jordan from grade 6 class. And Jordan had mentioned that they really love the flowers in their neighbor's garden. And they mentioned their black-eyed Susan flowers, and they're not blooming yet, but when they start to bloom every year, they really feel a good connection to those flowers that they get to see every day, right next to their yard in their neighbor's garden, and seeing the bees and the butterflies finding these flowers as well. So thank you, Jordan and Wally and Annie, for sending in your artistic connections to nature. Now, you've all been sitting for a long time, so I'm going to ask everybody to stand up for a moment. Don't move around the classroom, or don't move around your space necessarily, but stand up, and we're all going to do a moment of appreciation together. So whether you're in grade 3, grade 5, grade 8, you're a teacher, you're a homeschooler, everybody stand up. And for this moment of appreciation, I want to have us appreciate something that people don't always really appreciate verbally, right? We might complain about it, sometimes we're happy about it, but it can be all different types. And what I'm talking about is the weather. So the weather is a big part of nature and what helps nature thrive. I want us to imagine that it's a rainy day, and rain helps everything grow. Water is life, we know this. And so I want you to spread your arms out and say, I love the rain. 1, 2, 3. I love the rain. You can imagine yourself getting all wet with that beautiful water, the life-giving water. Now I want you to imagine it's a really windy day, and you're in that wind, and you're stretching your arms out, and repeat after me, I love the wind. 1, 2, 3. I love the wind. Very nice. And now I want you to imagine that you're outside. I think you're probably inside right now, but you're outside, and it's a very sunny day today, at least in Toronto. I imagine also in the broader GTA in Peel and York and Durham. And so maybe you'll do this after school. You can stretch your arms out facing the sun and call out, I love the sun. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I love the sun. Amazing. All weather deserves our love, and whether it's rainy or windy or sunny, it all plays a role in making this amazing planet Earth so wonderful and allowing for things to grow and go through their life cycles. So thank you for joining me in connecting to what offers so much life to grow on the planet, the weather, and for letting me share some of those artistic perspectives on nature connections. I encourage you to also watch your local nature as it changes through the seasons. If you're artistic and want to draw, you can draw as well, and create art out of what you're seeing. You can go back and look at that Naturehood live stream. It'll be posted in the chat. There's a link if you haven't already seen it, and check that out. And the more you appreciate about the natural world, the more you love it. And the more we love things, the more we want to take care of them. So that's all part of stewardship and celebrating Earth Day. Thank you so much, Janelle. I'm going to send it back over to you.
Thanks, Raya, for sharing with us. That was really great. I couldn't hear you, unfortunately, but I did see all the great artwork. I'm glad we got up and moved our body, and I hope you're inspired to get out and explore your parks and learn how you can connect with the spaces around you. Because when you connect with those spaces, you learn to love it, and when you love those spaces, you want to connect with it and protect it, right? I did my own little artwork here. To go along with Raya's beautiful things that all of those kids made for her. So I made my picture here. Sorry, it was in my pocket, so it's a little crumply, but this is how I like to think of nature. So I love trees, so that's why I drew some trees here. My favorite tree is the oak tree. And I know that trees have this really cool system under their ground that they can communicate with each other through fungi called mycelium and through their roots as well. So underneath here is just representing all the connections trees have to each other, but also to us. We are connected to everything in the environment as well. We are not apart from it. So all of these connections, all of these swirls, all of these roots and fungi, they connect all the trees, but they connect us as well. And then I also drew some blue jays up here. I'm not an artist, but I drew some blue jays because I often have a lot of blue jays outside of my house, and I can hear them very distinctly. So I drew some blue jays in my tree as well. But it was a really fun activity to think about how I could use artwork and how I can express my feelings for nature by drawing. So give it a try. I hope that you are able to do the same thing. All right. We are coming close to the end of our presentation. I wanted to do a quick recap of all that we went through. So we talked about how sometimes we feel some really big emotions about what's happening on the planet. We know that there's lots of pollution. We know that there's something called climate change, and our climate change, it's sort of like the planet has a fever. It's not doing well. It's a little bit sick, and we cause that. We did a lot of things that can cause that. So we get some really big feelings about that. We know that this is called eco anxiety, and it's normal. And it's something that happens, but it's something that we can work through and something that we can fix by doing something about it. We can do a lot of things to help our planet, and that can help our planet and then also make us feel a lot better as well. So, one of those things that we can do is we can use active transportation to get around. So, by using active transportation, you're not putting in all the pollution and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere that make climate change go a lot faster. And you can see a lot of those effects of climate change a lot faster. So by moving our bodies, we're not using our cars as much, or we're not using buses as much, or anything like that. I mean, there's also other alternatives to using gasoline cars. Maybe we can think about using electric vehicles more often, or public transit is a really good one as well. So there's lots of different ways that we can think about how we get around and how we can help our planet uh, based off how we get around. We also learned that how we eat can affect our planet. So all those things that we get from the grocery store came from somewhere, and usually that somewhere is big agricultural fields or big farms with lots of cows or lots of we call it monocultures, one thing growing. And when one thing's growing, a lot of the time they use chemicals that aren't good for our planet. So ways that we can think about maybe reducing that impact is by buying less of those foods. Maybe we can buy organic. Maybe we can eat less meat, buy less meat, so those cows aren't being produced that are producing those methane. But sometimes that's not accessible. So another thing we can do is grow our own food. Put something in the dirt. We planted onions here. You can plant peas or tomatoes or kale or lettuce, something. And it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to start a farm. But if you start little by little, supplementing some of those things that you get from the grocery store, you're doing some great things for our planet. Now, and then Raya came on and told us how we connect with the planet can also help the planet. So if we get out and explore more and really think about our relationships to the trees and the soil and the water and our parks, we can start to love our planet. And when we start loving our planet, we feel connected to it. We'll share that knowledge with other people. We'll make art. We will do actions so that our planet will be a better place for everything to live on for years and years to come. So we are at our final thing, and so there's like we talked a lot. We talked a lot about a lot of things. One of the things that I really like doing to connect to the earth, to help our planet, something really, really simple, is making something called a seed ball. And this is what they look like. Little itty bitty balls of wonderfulness. Inside this ball, there are lots of seeds. And if I were to throw this into a garden or um, into a pot or into somewhere near my yard or somewhere that I have permission to throw it, this will grow into maybe like 10 or 15 native flowers. Isn't that cool? Flowers will start growing from this. And I chose native flowers in particular because native flowers, they support those bees that we talked about, those 800 types of bees in Canada. But they also support our ecosystems. They're really good for all the things that are around us and that are living with us. So we want to plant native plants to help our planet as well. So I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm just going to move my camera down so you can see my table here. Let's move this way a bit. There we go. So how do we make seed balls? Super simple. All you need is some clay. So I have some powdered clay. You can use like clay that you get, like pottery clay that you can get maybe from the dollar store or from any store that sells it. But I'm using some dry clay today. So I'm going to put that into my bowl here, kind of dusty. And you also need some soil or compost. So I have just some potting soil here that I'm also going to throw in here. And you want it like 1 part soil, 1 part clay. And then at this point, it's going to mix it up. And I love using my hands for this because I love touching the dirt and connecting with the earth this way. So I'm going to mix it up. And the next thing I'm going to do before I make little balls is I am going to plant some seeds. So I have lots of seeds here, and I said I'm planting native flowers today, but you could also plant food with this. Remember how we were talking about how you can grow your food? So you can plant some lettuce. You can throw some lettuce seeds in here. I have some dill seeds as well that I could throw in here. But today I'm going to use butterfly weed seeds. So butterfly weed or butterfly milkweed is really good for monarch butterflies. So this is a plant that monarch butterflies rely on, but lots of other animals rely on them as well for nectar and for homes. So I'm going to pinch some seeds and I'm going to spread them around here. And actually I have lots of soil here as well. So maybe I'll do a mix. So I also have some black-eyed Susan seeds as well. And I'm going to put them into my hand and throw them in here as well, sprinkle them in. And once I have the seeds in there, I'm just going to give it a good mix. And this is the fun part. I am going to, oh, sorry, this has fallen over. And I am a cricket. I am going to start adding the water. And it's going to get messy, but it's going to be so much fun. So add a little bit of water. And actually, don't do what I did. You probably should add it slower because now I have some soup. So I'm just going to get some more soil and some more clay from just behind me. Actually, I'll just use this. And I'm just going to add in more soil or clay until you can make a ball out of it. And I think that's probably good. I'll add just a little bit more. Mix it, mix it, mix it. And then roll it, roll it, roll it. Make sure you have little balls. That's probably a little too big. Maybe about the size of a loonie around. You can see my ball here, and then let it dry out. So put it somewhere in the sun, near a window, let it dry out. And then once it's nice and dry, you can start thinking about the places you would like to put your seed balls. So that is how you make a seed ball. They're super easy, they're super fun, a good way to get engaged on Earth Day and do something fun for the planet, but also do something that's really fun for you as well. So we have made it to the end of our presentation, but before you go, we are going to have some questions and answers, a question and answer period. But if you need to get going, thank you for being here with us today. Our next live stream is on May 18th. We're going to be talking about microplastics for the older grades. So please join us for that. If you want a worksheet for this live stream, the link is in the chat. Please visit our friends at Earth Day Canada, earthday.ca. There's lots of different activities that you can do there. And we're also doing a lot of activities this weekend with the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. So check out our calendar as well for lots of events that could possibly be near you. And if you want to get active for Earth Day, that's a good way to do it. So thank you all for joining us. I am going to open it up for questions now. So if you have any questions or comments about anything that we talked about today, I can't hear you, but maybe Raya can help answer some of those questions for you.
Gotta love the tech issues.
Oh, I see the questions. Yes. All right. That's perfect. Thank you. How do trees connect with fungi on the ground? Oh, yeah. So I did talk about that in my picture. So there are these things called mycelium, and it's a really cool fungi that lives in communities under the ground with the roots. And as those roots grow and spread and find nutrients and water underneath the soil, that fungi is sending little messages out with its network. So it sort of looks like roots underneath the soil as well, this really big network of fungi under the ground. And it's sending out little signals, and it's like, all right, this tree over here has lots of water but is missing some nutrients. Can you move some of those nutrients over to that tree so that tree can grow really well? Or it could be like, okay, guys, this tree over here, there is something invading it. This tree is not doing well. It's pretty sick. So make sure you have your defenses up. And the other trees around will get those signals from the fungi. And those signals, I mean, they're not actually talking English, but they'll send little chemical signals that the trees can recognize, and those trees will get their defenses up and be more able to fend off maybe if it's like an invasive species or something that's infecting the trees nearby, and they'll be healthier for that. So that's a really cool way the trees talk to each other. It's like a telephone line underneath the ground.
I wanted to share. There's a robin that's been looking at me in this parquet, and now it's forgotten about me, but it's seeking out some little critters in the soil there. So I'm not sure if you can see that robin. I wish I could go closer, but I think it would fly away. Very actively looking for little things to eat down there. Thought I'd share that with everybody. Jasmine, you're on mute, I think.
Thanks for sharing, Raya. We have another question that came in asking, when was the first Earth Day in Canada?
When was the first Earth Day in Canada? That's a really great question. It was in 1970. So it's been like over 50 years since the first Earth Day. And the first Earth Day was a day of action. So the people who organized the first Earth Day really wanted people to get out, and they advocated for politicians and the government to do some things that do something about some of the bad things that were happening in the environment. So they got all together, they wrote petitions, they wrote letters, they marched, and lots of really great things came out of the first Earth Day that we still see today, like the legacy of that. It picked back up again in the 1990s, and since then, we've been doing Earth Days every year. And every year we think of like Earth Day Canada, for example, or Earth Day in the States. We think of themes to help us think about how we can help the Earth. But again, Earth Day is a day for action, for helping our planet, and for advocating that we need our planet in order to live. We need our planet to be healthy so we can continue to stay here, so animals continue to stay here, so our plants and water, everything stays healthy so we can be here. So Earth Day is a really important day to just remember that. And this is something that you can bring with you all throughout the year. You don't have to just do something for the Earth on Earth Day, but it helps us really think about it. And it's kind of fun to go out and do some things with people that you know and love for the Earth as well.
I think you're on mute again, Jasmine.
Thanks, Raya. Sorry. We have another question that's come in asking, why do trees grow fungi? So, Janelle, maybe you can talk more about fungi and how they connect with trees.
Right. So why do trees grow fungi? I'll pass this one to Raya. Raya, if you had a better idea.
Yeah. So, gosh, the world of fungus is huge. We could do a whole like 10 live streams on it, which would be more information than I know on it. But the fungus, I know there was a question a little bit about fungus and is it the same thing like mycelium, all that. So the mushroom or a mushroom fungus, that was the question. Mushrooms that we see above ground or growing out of trees, that's like the fruiting body part of the mushroom. But most of the fungus, so a mushroom is a part of a fungus, most of the fungus is growing underground or in the tree. And as mushrooms grow on trees, that means that inside the tree, there's the fungus working away in there. And the fungus is getting nutrients from the tree and breaking that tree down. Usually it's trees that are a little older and kind of at near the end of their sort of natural life. So they're ready to decompose. And the fungus really helps the tree to decompose by transforming those nutrients into kind of another system, which ends up becoming the soil in a roundabout way. So why do trees grow fungi? A fresh new tree, if it's healthy, wouldn't probably grow fungi. But as they get older and they're ready to start decomposing, that's when the fungi starts growing on them to help that decomposing process to happen. So I hope that makes sense how I put it there. But yeah, fungus is so cool, and the ones we have on trees often are like they're hard-bodied fungus, so they're not soft and squishy. They're more like it's growing in the edge of a tree, and they're really really solid, almost like a shelf fungus. So there's so many different types of fungi and mushrooms and everything, and that's just the tip of the iceberg that I just shared right there.
That's awesome, Raya. And I wanted to share that the question about the first Earth Day in Canada, that question came from the grade 6 class at Garden Avenue PS. So thank you so much for tuning in. And then this question that just came in about trees and fungi came from Copeland PS, which is awesome. Thank you so much to all of our schools and all of our students who are joining us today. I think that's all of the questions that have come in.
Well, thank you. I know Janelle can't hear us right now, so she doesn't know what stage we're at here, but thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're so excited that you care enough about Earth Day to want to take part in these sorts of events, this virtual event, and we really encourage you to get outside, no matter the weather, get outside and appreciate all the natural spaces around you and the big wide world. There are so many cool nature facts. Maybe you can hear a human activity happening. There's a siren going off near me in my street here. But there's so many cool things, facts, all kinds of things to learn about the natural world, far and wide, near and close, and really encourage you to learn about it and be active, make seed balls if you can find the materials, and be good stewards of the earth. So thank you so much for joining us, and happy Earth Day, everybody. You're on mute again, Jasmine.
I'm assuming that is all the questions. Sorry, I can't hear you all. It looks like a really wonderful conversation that was just had. Thank you, Ryan, for answering that question and saying some more. Thank you all for being here with us today. It was a blast. I hope you get out and do something really fun and really impactful for Earth Day. And remember, you can do something small and it will eventually have a really big impact. So start small and then go bigger if you need to. Bye, everyone. Have a really great day, really great weekend.
Bye everyone. Happy Earth Day.